You might have been hearing about blockchain and ledger capabilities in Azure SQL Database and SQL Server 2022, but now it's also available in Azure SQL Managed Instance. Learn all about it this week on Data Exposed. Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman, and welcome to this episode of Data Exposed. Today, we have a product manager from the Azure SQL security team joining us yet again. We have Peter joining us. Peter, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Always glad to be here.
Yeah, and it's super exciting to have you back on the show. You're always bringing some bleeding edge or exciting new announcements. So I don't want to give it away, but I want to, just toss it to you and understand what's new and what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Ledger again. It's all about bringing the power of blockchain to Azure SQL and SQL Server. Before we kick off, just a bunch of questions first. So how do we know that, or how do you know as a customer that your data inside your database has not been tampered with? Just to give you an example, in my previous life, I was a database consultant. I always got enough permissions to log into the databases of my customers, and I could easily tamper with the data. I could run update statements, even delete statements, and nobody would have ever noticed what I have done, right? The same for our customers. How can they establish trust between their partners, their stakeholders, and so on? So previously, we didn't have any technology or feature in SQL or Azure SQL that could help our customers. But as you know, Anna, we introduced last year the Ledger functionality. It's bringing the power of blockchain with the simplicity of SQL. And what we're doing with Ledger is we're making the data inside SQL tamper evident by using a cryptographic technology. And when I say cryptographic, we're really using a blockchain technology under the covers. So we're capturing all the transactions, and we're going to cryptographically link these data changes to each other and make the data, again, tamper evident, but also verifiable. And what I mean by that is that an external party, they can run a verification procedure to really verify whether the data can be trusted. Yeah, and what is easy for our customers that it is inside SQL, so they know already SQL. They still have the high performance and the simplicity of a relational database. So it's just really, really easy to kick off and start using Ledger and provide data integrity. Now, I mentioned that we had this already last year or since last year in Azure SQL DB and in SQL Server, but now we've introduced also Ledger in Managed Instance, which is currently in public preview. So everybody that wants to use this feature and provide data integrity in Managed Instance, it's there, and you can start using it.
Awesome. That is great news. Happy to announce it as part of the show. For folks who are tuning in, maybe they're just hearing about blockchain in SQL and how we do that with Ledger, or maybe they've been kind of ignoring this functionality because it isn't an Azure SQL Managed Instance. But now that it's kind of across our whole Azure SQL suite, can you give us a little refresher on what it is and how it works?
Sure. So as I said, it's there and it's enabled by default. And we provide our customers with what we call ledger tables. And we have two types of ledger tables. We have updatable and append-only ledger tables. Updatable ledger tables, they're typically used by applications, right? Because they need to do update and insert and delete statements. Append-only, we block update and delete statements, so we will just allow insert statements. So the user, they have to create these, and in this example, I'm going to use an updatable ledger table. So let's assume that somebody tries to modify a row in an updatable ledger table. What we're going to do is we're going to fetch the initial version of that row, and we're going to copy that into a history table, which has exactly the same schema like the updatable ledger table. But on top of that, we're going to add extra metadata like the commit time of a transaction, the user that has executed the transaction, so that we have that historical information. On top of that, our customers, they also get a ledger view, which is really gives you a chronicle overview of what is in your updatable ledger table and also in your history table. So you have the current value, but also the historical values. Now, this is all how we keep track of what happens, but where do we provide the data integrity? And that is done by what we call a database ledger. So all these transactions on updatable ledger table are hashed together by using a Merkle tree mechanism under the covers. And then what we're going to do is these hashes are then linked to each other, just like a blockchain technology. So once we've provided that block, that is something that can be done automatically every 30 seconds, or can also be generated manually by the customer. They can choose. Now, once we've generated that database digest, we're going to offload that automatically to trusted storage. And what is trusted storage? Still the same also in MI is Azure Confidential Ledger, which is a new service that we're using, or Azure Storage Account with the immutability settings switched on. So once we've uploaded that database digest, now it becomes interesting, of course, because an external party, as I mentioned in the beginning, they can now run a verification procedure. And what we're going to do is we're going to fetch the database digest from the trusted storage. And in real time, we're going to recalculate the hash inside the database. And then we're going to compare these two hashes. And if we have a match, then we have actually cryptographic proof that the data has not been tampered with and can be fully trusted. If we don't have a match, of course, then you also have proof that your data cannot be trusted and shouldn't be used any longer. Append only, as I said, we don't need to have the history table because we only allow update and delete statements. So let me quickly show how it works also in a managed instance. Let me switch to the first of all, let me switch to the portal. So here I'm already connected to my managed instance, which is called Ledger MI, and I've created a database called Contoso HR. And the new experience, exactly like in Azure SQL Database, is that in the security tab here, we're going to have an extra option called Ledger, where they can configure the automatic digest storage. So they can enable or disable it, and they can choose between an Azure storage account that they can select here, or of course, Azure Confidential Ledger is also another possibility that they can choose as the storage type. People that already work with Azure SQL DB, this looks familiar. This is exactly the same kind of functionality, but now in MI.
Nice.
Yeah. So jumping to the Management Studio, this is the same Contoso HR database that I have. You can see, I'm not lying, I'm connected to my managed instance here. And I've already created a bunch of ledger tables. So a few append-only ledger tables like audit events and ledger verifications. But today we're going to work with the employees table, which is an updatable ledger table. So if I just do a simple select statement, then you can see a bunch of records that contains a social security number, first name, last name, and a salary. And apparently, Anna, it looks like you're also part of this table. And what we're going to do, we're going to tamper with your records. It's not because we're going to add, let's say, $50,000 to your salary.
Okay.
So if we run this update statement, we think nobody will notice it, but of course it's an updatable ledger table. So if we run this specific query, where we're going to use the ledger view in combination with a new system table called database ledger transactions, then we can actually see what has happened. And we can see here that an update statement has occurred. So in the history table, we're going to create two records. So a delete operation with the old version of the records, which was your old salary, and a new record, which is an insert statement with the new salary. And this is the proof that we have that somebody actually has tampered with the data. And to be 100% sure, we can also run the verification store procedure in managed instance. It's exactly the same syntax. So the store procedure is called SP verify database ledger from digest storage. If we run this, we have a verification, and here in the messages it says ledger verification successfully verified up to block 10. So yeah, we don't have much blocks because this is a demo purpose database. But with that, we can, we now fully, we know that our data that is inside the database can be fully trusted because the verification was successful.
Wow, that's super cool. I mean, unfortunately, it means bad actors like myself in this scenario can't give ourselves $50,000 raises. But the good news is that's kind of what enterprises, what businesses would want, right? This
exactly.
Ability to catch things and bad actors like myself. Super cool demo, super exciting to see this land in Azure SQL Managed Instance. As folks decide they want to get started with this, are there any limitations that they should be aware of when it comes to using Azure SQL Managed Instance and Ledger in preview, or any other tips you have for folks getting started?
Sure. No, there are no limitations. Everything is available already in public preview. Well, everything, almost everything. So as you have seen, updatable ledger tables, append-only ledger tables are available. The automatic digest storage is available. There is a portal experience. Customers, they can also use PowerShell commandlets for MI. Azure CLI can be used as well. And we already even support specific managed instance capabilities like copy database, or GODR is also already supported with ledger tables. Even native restore. So if you already should have configured ledger tables and automatic digest storage in an on-premises database, when you restore that to a managed instance, we also already support that. So the updatable ledger tables that you had on premises, for example, will be available also in your managed instance. The only thing that we do not support yet is MI link, which is replicating your data from your on-premises database to a managed database in your managed instance. That is something we currently do not support yet.
Okay, awesome, cool. Well, it seems like this is good for folks to go ahead and get started with. Peter, thanks so much for coming on the show. For our viewers, we are going to put a bunch of links in the description for you to go learn more, go get started with this. Let us know your feedback. Any final comments, Peter?
Yeah, please try it out. It's a really, really cool feature. And if you have any issues, let us know. We're still in public preview. We can still change some stuff if you need to do that. So yeah, please try it out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Peter. To our viewers, thanks for tuning in. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think of this capability in Azure SQL Managed Instance. And we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.